Happy lunch hour, gang. Okay, it's June 30th. It's the last video for the third quarter, fiscal third quarter, second quarter of the year. And we're done with 6 months of this year. It's the last one for it. So let's kind of take a look at what's going on first 6 months of the year. Financially, economically, what we can expect, okay? What prices are going to do, what's going to happen to us all. If you've been paying attention at all, you know CPI is down. Everybody goes, oh, consumer price index. And everybody goes, oh, inflation's down. That's a good thing. But if you've also noticed at the same time, the dollar index is down, dropping another 25 basis points today. We're now down in the 96s, okay? To give you an idea, this is the weakest dollar we've seen since now December of 2021. And we're getting weaker and weaker and weaker. Anybody remember what was going on back then? Yeah, I know. Remember this? Yeah, that was it. No, I'm not patting you on the back. So what does this tell us? How can we look at it going forward, and what can we expect? It's kind of important. That's what we do. We all have vision out toward the future to prepare for what's coming. We don't just fly by the seat of our pants and go, well, gee, I'll just take life as it comes. That's how you get nowhere in life. So first off, if we look at the Dixie, the DXY, the dollar index, and it declining, the first thing that means is chances are we see lower interest rates or looser monetary policy by the Fed, which is why Trump keeps saying cut rates, cut rates, cut rates. And Jerome Powell says, I refuse to give Donald Trump a victory, so I'm not going to do it. I'm going to do whatever I can to make the economy suffer. All right. It could also mean something like global economic shifts, that we had strengthening currencies in other countries, except we don't. The currencies in the other countries aren't getting stronger. It's just the dollar's getting weaker. All right. And give or take, it's not every one of them. Nobody's really getting stronger, just the dollar's getting weaker. All right. So then let's take a look at CPI. All right. Oh, why could why could CPI be declining? Well, first off, and I think we'll all agree with this one, is consumer demand has dropped. All right. People aren't buying. All right. If there's less stuff being bought by people, stores have to sell it for less to encourage them to buy. Basic laws of capitalism, okay? Something's only worth what somebody else will pay for it. If nobody's buying your widgets at $1, chances are you drop it to 80 cents or something like that to see if you can generate people to buy it, right? Okay. Lower CPI could mean falling commodity prices, okay? Food, oil, those big important ones, with the exception of the boost in gas prices that we saw last weekend, a week ago, not yesterday. Gas prices have significantly dropped since the failed Biden experiment. And of course, we can still talk about it. Notice how gas prices went up in a nanosecond last Saturday, and they still really haven't dropped yet, even though the Iran war is over, right? Gas stations haven't dropped their prices yet. But even then, we're still lower than we were when Biden left office. All right. So what happens when we get a combination of this? Lower CPI and lower dollar index. All right. Well, I hate to tell you this, but the two of them together signify that we have a slowing U.S. economy. All right. That's going to be the problem. This is what Jerome Powell keeps saying. Well, gee, that may, because we've got lower inflation, I need to keep interest rates high so I can keep weakening the dollar because investors are looking for buying, I don't know, dividend-paying stocks like I've told you about, or anything other than treasuries. Remember, we're in a debt-based economy. The government needs to borrow money, which means they need somebody to lend it to them. And that's foreign countries buying treasuries, or that's Joe Average buying treasuries. When you're buying a treasury bond or bill or note or whatever, you're loaning the government money. They need you to keep doing it. So if they keep interest rates high, this is Jerome Powell said, we can keep borrowing. Like, that's done us so well. $37 trillion in debt, anybody? Okay. Well, here's where it gets a little worrisome, all right? If the CPI starts a free fall, then we get into a period of deflation, all right? Which then we wind up a snowball down the hill. Deflation means the dollar gets weaker, which means CPI gets worse, which means the dollar gets weaker, yada, 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 yada. And that's kind of what we all prepare for. Hence why you see so many people, so many countries buying gold. See stories every day about countries starting Bitcoin reserves. There was a country in Asia that announced this morning that they were starting a Bitcoin reserve. Another one. And I look at this and I'm going, it's funny how all these small countries are starting Bitcoin reserves and we just keep on talking our mouth. And by the time the U.S. government decides to get involved, everybody else is going to be like, well, you know what? We've already got 20, 50, 100, 200% increase, and you're buying at the end. Again, I go back to this. If the U.S. government starts buying Bitcoin, that may be the top, because the government isn't exactly what you'd call savvy at doing anything when it comes to money or business. Okay. So what does this do for, I don't know, your 401k, your IRA, your investment account, your savings for your kids' college, whatever? Well, a weak dollar and low inflation is usually good for the stock market. Gee, what have we seen? The Nasdaq's hitting all-time highs. The S&P's hitting all-time highs. Interesting how that works. The problem, of course, comes up with, can your after-tax, that's always important, return keep up with inflation? Yeah, there's the thing. The inflation that we know of, not the one that they report. Again, I don't care what the price of a new sewing machine is, whether it's gone up or down. When's the last time you bought a sewing machine or film for a camera or something? Let's talk about inflationary things like gasoline, food, housing, clothing, the ones that everybody participates in, all right? You're somehow need to figure out how to increase your, I'll use the term wealth, faster than inflation. Your paycheck needs to go up more than inflation. Your investments need to go up. Whether you're getting money out of CDs or whatever, however you're generating your income needs to go up at least at the rate of inflation to stay where you are. And if the price of chicken breasts goes up 50%, that means your income needs to go up 50%. And as much as the market's doing nicely, it's not returning the inflation, the equivalent to inflation that I'm seeing, okay? Or I've seen, let's put it that way. At least that's kind of slowed down. But Mrs. P and I talk about this all the time. Remember a couple of years ago when chicken thighs, we eat a lot of chicken thighs, 69 cents a pound. Now you go to the store and they're $2.29 a pound. I'm going, I haven't got a 250% return on my money. Our income isn't going up 250%, but the price of chicken is. Okay. So it's things to watch, all right? And I know I try to explain a little bit about this, things that you need to pay attention to, try to educate a little bit. But while you pay attention to inflation numbers, the CPI, whether or not we believe them or not, I agree with you. Like I said, sewing machines, film, whatever, who cares? But the dollar index, that's one everybody needs to pay attention to, because that determines directly the spending power your dollar has. It doesn't make a lick of difference if your boss gives you a 5% pay raise if the value of the dollar goes down 10%. Okay. And we all know since basically World War I, the value of the dollar has gone down 99%. Sure, you can't get to 100, but 99.1, 99.2, eventually you get closer and closer and closer and closer. And this is why we all look at alternative assets. Make sure you're protecting yourself. Make sure you're keeping up however you can, because it ain't getting better. Let's just put it that way. Pinball out.